Good morning, everyone. We are beginning today, concluding today the what we began in the beginning of the week in the book Likuti Torah, which is designed to bring Moshiach. It's a book written by the first Rebbe of Chabad, and it has a few, I think it's 100 discourses in it, and they're explaining the essence of what Judaism is and what God is and what the Torah is and what the world is and what the land of Israel is, what the commandments are, etc., from God's point of view, which that's going to be our point of view when Mashiach comes. That's the whole novelty of Mashiach. But in order to do that, that we should make it not just God's way of looking at the world, but our way of looking at the world also. So that's why there's Hasidut Chabad and teaching us and activating us to activate. So that's what's happening here. That's what's happening. That's what we're learning over here. So we have here an interesting prophecy about Mashiach. But first of all, let's give charity. Charity saves. Charity brings the future redemption. Give charity. Every person should have a charity box in his house. And the Rebbe stressed that if possible, there should be a charity box in every room in the house. Every inhabitable room, the bedroom, the kitchen, the front room. There should be a box, a charity box. And it's best that it would be an integral part of the house. It should be attached to the wall. It should be attached to the wall if possible. So, nevertheless, giving charity, because charity, we have no way of appreciating the amazing effect of charity in the upper worlds. A very good big portion of the Tanya is talking about the incredible importance of giving charity. In some ways, more important than learning Torah and doing commandments, etc. Giving charity to others, especially giving charity in the land of Israel. Here we go. Charity. Good. Charity will bring the future redemption. Good. So what have we learned up to now? We learned from a sentence in Isiah. It's the end of this week's what's called Haftorah. We read it in the synagogue after the reading of the Torah. So it's from chapter 54 in Isiah, and the sentence goes like this. Harim Yamushu, we go, ready? Oh, key, because Harim Yamushu, the mountains will melt, I guess. Yamush, whatever, they'll be dissolved, they'll melt. Gvoot, and the hills, Tamutena, they will crumble. V'chazde mitcha, and my love for you, lo yamush, will never melt. Ubrit shalomi, and my covenant of peace, lo tamut, will never move, never melt. Omar says, Marachamecha, the one who has mercy on you, God. And God, the one who loves you, but it doesn't say love, it says mercy. Okay, so up to now, so the Rebbe asks a question, which if you think about it, it's a pretty obvious question. What's Isaiah saying? Even if the mountains will move, that nevertheless, I will never stop loving you. So, okay, maybe this is good for a rock and roll song or something like that, even if the mountains move. But if you look at that, it makes absolutely no sense. Just because the mountains, let's say the mountains did move. So you say, oh, now it could be that God will stop loving the Jewish people because the mountains move. He says, no, even if the mountains do move, nevertheless, I'm still going to move you. What's the connection between the mountains moving and God loving the Jewish people? Because the mountains stand eternally. Is that so? Mountains really stand eternally? If you leave them alone, they stand eternally. If there's no... So I guess you can say they're pretty much firm. They're pretty much... So the Rebbe is saying, okay, you can interpret it some way like that. I mean, it's a good, they say, the metaphor. Mountains are pretty much, immovable. You can move like buildings, but who's going to move a mountain? Who's even going to tell you you're going to move a mountain? Okay, so, but here the Rebbe is saying something much more than that. There's something which is eternal that you might think is eternal, and that even if that is gone, God says, I'm still going to love the Jewish people. What is this eternal thing? It says the inheritance that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob brought to the Jewish people. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they founded the Jewish people. What's the founding? What is the essence of what's the Jewish people? What's the Jewish people's identity? What is a Jew? What is a Jew? We see all these Jews. It's not where they live. There's Jews that don't live. It's not even doing the Torah. There's Jews that are totally not religious. Jews that live in Yemen, Jews that live in Russia, Jews that live in this. It's not a race. It's not a religion. It's not, of course, it is all of these things. It's not a nationality. What is a Jew? So the Rebbe says that the essence of a Jew, that's what we thought up to now, but we'll see it's much deeper than that. The essence of a Jew is serving God. That's the essence of a Jew. And the essence of a Jew is a Jew knows that this world is here to be improved. And the way to improve it is by connecting yourself to God, the creator. He's the creator. He knows what's going on in the creation. And you go back to the manufacturer, you do the manufacturer's instructions, but even more, you value the world, you value God, you love God, you have awe of God, you have fear of doing the wrong thing, pushing the wrong button, right? Saying the wrong word. Who knows what effects it could have to do the wrong thing, to go against the creator. You have fear. Or you have balance, mercy, Torah, beauty. That's Jacob. That's the aspect. That's what Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they gave to the Jewish people. Abraham gave a love of God. This is especially expressed in giving charity, doing the commandments, which makes blessing to the world. Yitzchak, he brought power to the world. Power, like fire. That's like prayer. Prayer. And the Jacob brought beauty to the world, serving God in a loving way, in a dynamic way, and in a balanced, beautiful way. That's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what he brought. And even if and they're called the mountains. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are called mountains. He brings different places with him. It says, even if the mountains move, that's what we got up to now. Even if the mountains move, and the Jewish people have abandoned this love of God or fear of God or beauty of God, they've abandoned the Torah and the commandments and charity, they've abandoned everything, but nevertheless, my mercy will not move from you. Huh? That's what God says. So if so, here we see a deeper aspect of the Jews. True, this is latent in every Jew, the love of God, the fear of God, and the beauty of God, balance of God, that's latent. But there's something which is never latent in a Jew, and that is God's mercy for us, God's love for us. And I think you can see that. We're going to talk about this. I think that you can see that. I know I've said this a lot of times, maybe too many times, but it's pretty amazing that there is, you see this all the time, but a couple of days ago, I saw a big march in New York, or at least a big group, whatever, in New York, of Jews for Hamas. Jews for Hamas. I think that's what they call themselves. And Jews against Zionism. Jews against Zionism. Get all the Jews out of Israel. We got from the river to the sea, the river to the sea, Palestine will be free of Jews. There won't be any more Jews in Palestine. So they're against Judaism. They're against the Jews. They're against Torah. For sure, they're against the Torah. For sure, they're against the commandments. That's because we have no claim to the land of Israel. There's no such thing as Jewish people. But they do not deny that they're Jews. And they'll fight for their identity, Jewish identity. If you go up to them and say, you're not a Jew, they'll say, I'm just as good as Jew as you. Who are you to tell me what a Jew is? I think Jews are, they're just the people with beards. I'm just, so in other words, they care about being a Jew. That's the infinite mercy of God revealed in this physical world. They've left the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob love of God, fear of God. But nevertheless, there still is the Jewish identity. That's this. Okay, but now the Rebbe is going to say something. That's one way. God will always love us, but that's mercy. Then the Rebbe started a whole higher level of this. Only positive. What's only positive? Says, if the Jews do tshuva, if the Jews repent, then they'll be redeemed. Okay, but the word repent, tshuva doesn't just mean repent. Repenting means that you realize you're on the wrong track, and but there's also tshuva also means to return. So what does it mean to return? You could be on what you think is the right track, and you are. You're doing the maximum of the maximum that you can to serve the Creator. That's called a tzaddik. He feels God. Nevertheless, you have to return to God. What does it mean you have to return to God? The reality of God is infinitely greater than anything that we can possibly appreciate. Infinitely better, more precious, more real than anything that we can appreciate, even the biggest tzaddikim. And that's one of the main accomplishments of the Moshiach. So that's what it means. Even if you do love God and you do have awe of God, fear of God, and you do learn the Torah and appreciate the beauty of God, and you bring them into the world, nevertheless, you need mercy. Why? Because in fact, everything we have, no matter what our accomplishments are, they're all gifts from God. No matter how hard we worked, no matter how many difficult decisions that we made in life, when it really comes down to it in the end, it's all blessings of God. It's all blessings of God. The whole thing is a big, amazing gift. It's all from God's mercy. Everything. That's why it says, interestingly enough, that Moses, who was by far the most complete Jew in existence. I mean, I guess there's David, King David, but Moses he received the Torah, went up on Mount Sinai, perfect. He said he was the most humble person in the world because he realized that everything he had was only from God's mercy. And so therefore it says, no matter how, if you say that, let's say a person who did all sorts of sins and went against God, everything he has to return to God. So what I don't do these sins. What are you talking about? It says, yeah, but that person, it ends up, that big sinner, he is just as far away and as dependent. He is dependent on God, just like Moses is dependent on God. Everything he has is an amazing miracle. Everything that Moses has is an amazing miracle. The fact that we even exist. So it says, therefore, that's a different type of thing. Even if the mountain, let's get into this. That's what we're saying now. Here we go. Let's go. Oh, Hine. Just a little bigger. Can I do it? Huh? No, I gotta go to the top. Okay. Here we go. Hine. After these words and this truth that I've just told you. So we've learned that kulam, everyone sarichim le tshuva. Everyone has to do tshuva. Everyone has to return to God. Afilu mishalochet, even a person that never did any sins in her life. Nevertheless, Yeshuv love, we must come closer to God, and God will have mercy on us. On the spark of God, which is in our soul, that came down, so, how do you say, miraculously, and so, it's on a better word, playing. So surprisingly, mata, so far down, from the face of God. The leis machshavat tafisa bay, there is no thought which can grasp God at all. The kol asagoto, and all of our understanding of the greatness of God, kol chad, each person, lafum shiri delay, according to his ability, hu bechinas gashmius, is like nothing, is like, how do you say, like rocks or something, the gabi emitit ora and so, like the essence of God, Ba'atzmo himself. So you take all the wisdom of Moses, whatever it is, the greatest wisdom, he went up on Mount Sinai, says that is like playing in the sand, like a little child playing in the sand, if you look at it from God's point of view. Okay, so what's the Rebbe trying to do over here? The Rebbe is trying to give us a feeling of what God is, to dispel any misconceptions that people have about God. But people think that God is a big power or a big whatever that created the world a long time ago, at best, created the world a long time ago, and he's not involved in the world. That God is somehow or other spiritual. He's the chief of all the spirits, chief of all the upper worlds, the heavens. He's the big boss. God. God. He's something like, you ever see the movie? There was a movie called, what was it? Alice in Wonderland? Is that it? No. I don't even remember what it was. Anyway, they went to see the Wizard of Oz. That's the name of the Wizard of Oz. So anyway, no, it's not Alice in Wonderland. So they went to see the Wizard of Oz. What was the name? I don't know, remember. So the Wizard of Oz, he's some sort of a mystical person that he can heal the sick and make the stupid wise and etc. And everybody's in awe of him and etc. And finally they get to find this Wizard of Oz, and he's some guy sitting behind a curtain, and he's got just levers that make all these appearances of fire and loud voices and things like that. So a lot of people think that's what God is, basically. That's what God is. What is God? God is like this big sort of figure that's behind all these veils. And he's somehow or other, his main concern is judging you. You go to the world to come, you get going to heaven, you're going to hell. Right? You're going to hell. And most of the religions made God like very distant from us. He says, well, now the Rebbe is saying, well, the fact is that God is infinitely closer than what we can think, and he's infinitely, incomparably distant from us than what all the other religions think. Why? Because God is real, and God is ultimate reality. And all of our reality that we are real, it's just a little wisp of God's reality. But nevertheless, God cares about the world. The world is very important. So to feel God's reality says that if a person would see an angel, he would die from fright. An angel is like, you can imagine, you open up your front door, and you see a big, a huge dog standing there wanting to, eat you up. You'd be just frozen with fear. Well, God is, the angels are 1,000,000 times bigger than a big dog and infinitely more scary. And God creates all the angels. God is creating all the angels, creating everything from nothing. So this doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't, but it's real. It's true. And that essence of God, that's what gave us the Torah. And that's what the Mashiach will reveal. And because we know that God is so infinitely real and that everything that there is in the world is coming from him, and he cares about everything in the world, so that all of a sudden means that no matter how appreciative I am of God, and no matter how I serve God with all of my heart, but it's nothing to compare to what I owe God. And even more what God is. I mean, God existed before I was born, right? God existed before I was born. God existed before the world was created. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean, but God is infinitely real, and he gave us the Torah, and he cares about us. When we see this, that's doing tshuva. That's called doing tshuva. We return to the fact that we are very distant from God and that we can come infinitely closer. That's why we're created. On this tshuva, in this level, this is what it says. It depends on the Mashiach. That's what Mashiach is going to do. He's going to, they call it expanding consciousness. I think it's more called that is a normalizing consciousness. He'll make our conscience, our awareness of what the truth is, normal awareness. We're not aware of what's going on. We're not aware we're being created. Mashiach will make us aware. He'll make the world healthy. People look, and therefore it says, in the future to come, that the mountains will melt, the hagvaos, and the hills will crumble. What does it mean? And we said the mountains and the hills, that's awareness of God that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob gave to us. Awareness of God, getting emotional about God. It says, called Dodi, says King Solomon. That's the whole book of Song of Songs. King Solomon is talking about this, the love relationship between God and us and God. It says in the Song of Songs, the voice, the sound of my beloved, it's coming, jumping over the mountains and skipping over the hills. These are these mountains and hills we talked about. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Here's what it means. Call Dodi, the sound of my beloved. This is what's drawn down below in the days of the Mashiach. He kiviyachal is medalig. It jumps over. It comes from a higher level, mimidrega, from one level to the other, coming down into this world. And from higher levels come jumping down to the world. It's infinitely higher than and comes down to these level of mountains and to the level of hills. Suddenly our love of God will be so incredibly enhanced, like the story I told yesterday, right, about Sadia doing tshuva. Said if I would know what God is yesterday, like I knew today, right, then I would serve God totally different yesterday. That's what it means. That the awareness of God comes jumping over lamata mibechinas harim. It comes below from the essence of God, it comes jumping down to us. It comes through the whole order of Hishtalshlus of the creation of the world. But when it will be revealed in the future, this tremendous mercy of God, right? The mountains and everything that comes down in sort of a normal way. But in the future, when God reveals His essence, then the mountains, the accomplishments, the awareness, the appreciation we had of God that we've worked so hard for will melt. And the hills, which is also another level of appreciation of God, a lower level, will crumble. But my kindness, my love, my essential love, that God desires, the love that God had, which is the reason why He created the world. And we can also say the same thing when there are no more merits. If the Jewish people are all terrible sinners, and there's no more merits of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, but nevertheless, God will overlook that and send His mercy. Kuli. Mamaskana, the point is the low tama ki b'chines ki chafetz chesed hu mitlabish b'chines chesed Avram. Says you won't be amazed. You will be able to accept the essence of God. Why? Because this essence of God will be put into the love that Abraham inherited us and the fear that Yitzchak inherited us, the mountains. Asher nishpa l'avotenu. That's what God swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, miyamei kedem, from before time, that He was going to give to us. That's what it says, that all of the prophets are going to be negated in the future. Call on Navim, Batelim Latid, they'll be negated. They'll be negated. Now, that's what the rabbis say. All of the prophets will be negated, except for Megillah's Esther. We won't read Isaiah anymore. All the words of Ezekiel and Hosea will be obsolete. No, says the Rebbe, it doesn't mean it'll be negated. God forbid. The Torah is eternal. But the revelation that the prophets brought will be like a little candle in front of a huge torch. The revelation of God will be so great in the future that the words, the encouragement, the warnings that the prophets brought into the world will be, how do you say, unnecessary. Everyone will see God, obviously, will see. Al Derech Zeh, it's all the same thing like Haharin Yamushu, the mountains will be revealed, will melt in comparison to this love that God is going to give us in the future. So what's the Rebbe saying? The mountains in this case are representing our appreciation, our love, our fear, our awe, our faith in God, doing the commandments, doing which bring us to do the commandments and to pray and to give charity and to learn Torah. And this awareness of God that we have now, that's the mountains. And they will be, I say, almost obsolete in the future. Our appreciation of God will be so intense and so natural that what we have been nurturing from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that's what's been keeping us going all this time of exile, it won't be necessary. Ubrit Shalomi, and so that's what it says in the end of the sentence. It says, but the covenant of my peace will be forever. For the Hu Brit Elyon, this is the upper covenant. This is the upper agreement that God made with the Jewish people, Lamakasher, which attaches us, the essence of God that's above the creation, the Bolia de Gile, to be revealed in this world. That's the covenant that God made, that His essence will be connected. A brit means a connection. Two things agree with each other, they never leave each other. That is kol chai. It will be brought into the whole order of creation. Levat, so is kol chai, that the order of the creation alone from one world into another won't be. Tzaddik Elyon will be revealed, not just the levels of godliness that are in the creation, but from this level of the upper tzaddik. Brit, like we said before, is the circumcision also. That's the covenant that God made with the Jewish people, the agreement, the eternal, indelible agreement that God made with the Jewish people is the circumcision. That's why Jewish people are circumcised. Why they circumcise their children? Rarely are they Jews that don't circumcise their children. Even non-religious Jewish people, they circumcise, they have the children circumcised. Why circumcised? Because it signifies the covenant between God and the Jewish people. Where is the circumcision? In the place, the organ of procreation. And the organ of procreation. And that, in other words, that what attaches the male to the female. God is always referred to as male in Judaism because he's the giving aspect, and female is the receiver, Mother Earth. So in the future, it's going to be Tzaddik Elyon, the upper desire of God to attach himself to the world. That's the Brit Shalomiyat, that's the covenant, which will be revealed. Let maybe go back to see why are we talking about this covenant. Here we go. Let's go. Here, that's the sentence we have. Ki Aharim, the mountains will move and will melt, etc. The hills will crumble, but my love for you will never move, never melt, never move. Lotamut vobrit shlomi, and the covenant of my peace. This is what Isaiah says. The covenant. So he says, what is this covenant? This is the upper level of Tzaddik Elyon, God's upper desire to attach himself to the world. That's the reason he created the world. So he could have a world that he could reveal himself in. It will never move, says the one who has mercy on you. One second. So that's why mercy. And attaches the upper worlds to the lower. That's the level of tzaddik. That's where we are. Like it says, I'm sorry. That on this level of the upper level of tzaddik, that's called the yesod. In the 10 spirit, it's called yesod. It's the desire of God to attach himself to the world, to be in the world. That's why the righteous Jews are called tzaddikim. That's tzaddik. That's this aspect of tzaddik. Yosef was tzaddik. Yosef is the aspect of yesod. That's why it says, Az yachzik b'ma'ozi yaseh li shalom, shalom yaseh li. It's a sentence in, where's the sentence in? I'll tell you 1 minute. I should have looked this up before. It's true. Here we go. This is on page, 1 second. Let me get this here. Aleph. No. That's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. Base man, Aleph, base. There we go. Here it is. Isaiah. It's in Isaiah 27. It says then, sorry, 1 second. Oh, there it says, Ba'az yachzik b'ma'ozi, then you will be connected to my power. Yaseh shalom li, making peace for me. Shalom yaseh li, peace will be made to me. What is Isaiah saying over here? Says shalom, that God makes peace in the upper heavens and in the lower heavens. Umata, and I guess upper heavens and the lower in the world. Okay, this idea of yesod that connects, it makes peace, it unites opposites. There's no bigger opposites than the upper worlds and the lower worlds, the heavens or the earth, or even more, the creator and the entire creation. And that is accomplished by this level of yesod. That's what's this brit olam, this brit that God spoke about. The brit means that God's desire to connect to all of the worlds. That will make peace in the world when people feel that they are being created by the creator and the creator is infinitely good. Look, and therefore it says, Nafla loto sifkum betulit Yisrael. That's what we said. When the Jewish people fall down, so then God says himself has to elevate them. That's why King David left out Nun in Psalm number 145. And then we explained all the other sentences, how God elevates us. Well, it says, she fell down, she will not raise up again. The virgin of Israel. What does it mean? Shelo tiyeh kima v'aliyah mimata lamayla. It won't be elevating from below to above, but it'll all be from God. The Jewish people, if sometimes they'll fall down and they have no power to raise up, they've done such terrible sins and they're so far away from God that they have no power to raise up on their own. They cannot kum. They cannot rise up. So what's going to save them? It says, your husband will make you. Elokai kol ha'oretz yikra kechol shebechol ha'oretz halazu agashmis yagil elokus. The whole world itself, God will come and reveal himself in the world. The whole world will feel that there's a creator, and that will lift the Jews up. Like it says in the future, ayin ba'ayin yiru, eye to eye we will see the essence of God. And it says, tzaddikim, in the future, the tzaddikim, the righteous Jews that will say, that the world will say in front of them, Kodesh, that they are holy. Not like today, that we say holy from below to above, but Yomru Kadosh, what does it mean? From above to below. In other words, God will imbue the whole entire world with a type of a holiness that everyone will recognize this holiness. And we'll recognize it as it'll be a free gift, but it'll be a free gift that somehow or other will be able to accept. Now, when it happened on Mount Sinai, God revealed his essence. The Jewish people couldn't take it. They couldn't take it. They said, Moses, we can't take it anymore. They heard, the Jews heard the first of the 10 commandments, first two. And they said, Moses, you get the rest. It's too much for us. That was back then. But since we've been through all the exile, and it says in the future, God is going to have mercy, and he's going to reveal from above to below, and suddenly wake up every single Jew in the world. This is going to raise them up higher than the mountains, higher than what Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, etc. It'll say that every Jew will be holy. Gil Elokus, revealed godliness in the world. Not like it says now, there'll be a tremendous mercy from above to below will be revealed. You think we can finish this today? Let's try. Let's try. Here we go. Okay, so what did we learn? What's the Rebbe trying to say? Isaiah is prophesying about the days of the Moshiach. And Isaiah is saying that when Moshiach comes, there's going to be a tremendous internal soul enhancement to every single person in the world, the Jews first. The Jews first. And therefore it says that no matter how high you are or how low you are, we have to strive for this revelation that's going to be in the future, because it's equally distant from everybody. It's the essence of God. And the essence of God, we don't even know what that means nowadays. We think the essence of God means some sort of a spiritual thing that's not relevant. It's only relevant to the world of religion or something. It's not. It's the essence of God is the creator. He's creating everything. Every rock, every grain of sand, we say, he's being created. And that God cares about that care, and that love will be revealed in every little detail. And that's what it means above the mountains. Our appreciation of God will be above that of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and our resultant love and fear and emotions, etc. It'll be a gift. It'll come from above. It'll be rachamim. Only from God's mercy will everything be revealed. This has to happen pretty soon. I mean, things are pretty deteriorating. That's the explanation. Why is it that a Baal Tshuva is even higher than a regular normal Jew? That's what we said, Baal Tshuva. A Baal Tshuva, according to the Rebbe, is according to, I guess, the only translation in English is a penitent person who is repenting from what he did, right? But we've just explained that no, Baal Tshuva means you just return, or you try to return to the truth that you knew clearly before you were born, that God is the creator, that there's nothing except for God, and that everything is of God's mercy and God's love and God's power, etc. The essence of God. And so when we now in this world are, no matter what achievements we've reached in Judaism and awareness of God and love of God and everything, nevertheless, we have to do tshuva. That's what the Rebbe said. Tshuva means to strive to be attached to the Creator constantly. And no matter what we've done, it's never enough, never even near enough. Right? So that should make us strive constantly. We should be simultaneously bitter about how far away we are from God and happy that we can come closer, infinitely closer. Every little deed we do connects us to the infinite. But on the other hand, we have infinite distance to go. So it says that's what's called tshuva. Tshuva, they brings a person higher than even a big tzaddik. Because the 248 positive commandments, those are the 248 limbs of the king. That's what's called Zer Anpin. I don't know if we'll be able to do this actually. Let's try it. We'll go through it. That's what's called the emotions of Atzilut. From this Zer Anpin of Atzilut, ha'orot mitlabshim bekelim, they are in vessels. I'll try to explain this. Therefore, tzaddikim that do the commandments, they draw down these lights of godliness, which are in these vessels of God's emotions. Zer Anpin means God's emotions, and Atzilut is another name for God. In this case. So what are the commandments? The commandments are an expression of God's emotions. Generally speaking, they're divided into three pillars. On the right side is what's called chesed. On the right, chesed, chachma, chesed, and netzach on the right side. And on the left side, he doesn't bring it here. On the left side is gevura, gevura, bina, gevura, and hod. It's on the left side. And in the middle is dat and tiferet and yesod. That's what, anyway, the three pillars, the 10 sefirot can be arranged that way. Keneged, this corresponds to Torah. Torah is the middle pillar. Avoda, that's the left side. And gemilut chasadim, and kindness, that's the right side. That's what we said before in the previous mimer. Poteach et yadecha must be elokol chai ratzon. Chai, God opened up your yud. The yud is the first letter of God's name. And he opened, this is the letter of the Yesod, the Yud. Chai is the level of Yesod. Yesod, we said, attaches what's above and below. Generally speaking, that's God's emotions. That comes from Mizer Anpin, Mokar L'Neshamas Israel, and the source of the Jewish people. That's Kol Chai, like it's known, the name of Tetvav Malot Tovot. We say on Kama Malot Tovot, the Mokam, we say on the light of Passover, there's 15 of them, right? If God would have taken us out of Egypt, and he wouldn't have given us the Torah, if we would have split the sea, etc. This is the 15 foundations, which are the Chamesha Partzufei Atzilus in the Kabbalistic idea. 15, that's the Yud K, the first two letters of God's name. Okay, so the Rebbe is trying to explain why it is that a Baal Tshuva, someone who realizes that he's infinitely far away from God, and that everything that he's done up to now is like nothing compared to what he owes God, and he wants to do more, that's a Baal Tshuva, is greater than a person who's a tzaddik. A tzaddik is a person that really appreciates God, and he really loves God, and he really fears God, and every moment he's serving God in the world, but he's doing it in a way of completeness. So to speak, he appreciates God, he's doing it in a way that he's wholesome, and a Baal Tshuva is someone that he's broken. He realizes that no matter what he does, even though he should be happy doing it because you're doing what God wants, but it's never enough. He's infinitely far away from God. And a tzaddik feels that he's infinitely close to God. So says the Rebbe, by means of a person depending totally on God's mercy, no matter how many commandments and love you have of God, that by means of this is drawn down God's upper will to us in a revealed way, like in a way of the order of creation. That's the whole idea of the 13 tikuni dikna, the 13 attributes of mercy. It's also called the 13 tufts of the beard of Erech Anpin. Erech Anpin is a Kabbalistic level, which is called the outside level of God's crown, Erech Anpin. These are orot shalamaylam yakelim. These are lights of God which cannot be appreciated by us. They cannot be appreciated by the angels. When we shone from there is drawn down light which jumps over the whole order of creation. Because up and down are equal in this level of keter, we said, of God's crown. And on that it says, Ki aharim, that's what it says, this upper level of God, God's crown, so to speak, that's, so to speak, coming from God's essence, which is above any way of appreciation. That is what's drawn down to us. That's also called God's 13 attributes of mercy. And that comes down and wipes out all sins, wipes out all commandments, wipes out everything. We realized, the big tzaddikim realized that they were serving God, that they had no idea what God was, just a little tiny idea. And the people that were evil, they realized that they had no idea what this world is. They made a mistake. They thought God doesn't exist. Suddenly they realized that God exists infinitely, infinitely real, more real than they are. That's what it means that the mountains, which that's the level of love and fear and what is appreciation, beauty of Atzilut, they will all melt because the revelation is going to be above Atzilut. This love also Netzach Hod Yesod, which is that's the hills, also serving God in a way of self-sacrifice, in a way of devotion. That's called Netzach Hod Yesod, also will be dissolved. No matter how much we think we appreciate God, no matter when Mashiach reveals what the essence of God is, suddenly we'll realize that, wow, I'm so lucky that I did what God wanted, anything that God wanted before Mashiach revealed. It's a miracle. And those people that were sinners and terrible sinners, they can say, now I understand why I was sinning. This is reality. When I went in exile, I didn't see reality. I didn't feel anything. Listen, when a person wants to feel useful, he wants to feel that he's accomplishing something in the world, right? If you're hungry, you eat a meal, so you're accomplishing something. If you're poor, you have a little bit of money, you feel something, right? You feel you do something that brings you pleasure. You feel something. You're doing something. You did something. You got results, right? It doesn't really make that much difference if the food that you eat is kosher or not kosher. You get pleasure from it. It doesn't make any difference whether the thing you're doing that gives you pleasure is according to the Torah or not according to the Torah. As long as the police won't catch me, whatever it is, right? When a person does what it says in the Torah, he doesn't feel any results, immediate results. It doesn't feel anything. It takes a drug, whatever, you get results. A person puts on tefillin, doesn't feel any results. People want to feel results. In the future, when Mashiach comes, as everyone will feel godliness, God will be real. All the pleasures of the world are just creations. And we'll feel that they're just creations. All the pleasure that we could get from the world, the connections that we got from the world, how the world awakens us and does these things, we realize that that's just a little wisp, 1/1000th of what reality really is. It was real, but it was. So the people that did sins can say, listen, what do you want from me? Now when Mashiach comes, I see what real reality is. I got an excuse. If I would have known it was like this, I would have done the commandments. Of course. And in the future, everyone will do the commandments. But why did God hide himself? That's a big question. That's a big question. That's the word for Hebrew. World is the same world as concealment. God decided he wanted to make a world where he would be concealed so that we would have free will and that we would serve him according to our free will. But in the future, there will be a big revelation. And when that revelation comes, then it says all these upper worlds, Atzilut, and all these things I talked about will all be like nothing. The one thing that will be revealed is Chazdi, my love, the love of Atik, that's this level of crown, God's crown, from you will never move. My covenant of peace, and that's what's called Yesod of Atik, the Yesod, the connecting aspect of God's crown, we said, above the whole entire creation. This attaches and joins Ein Sof, the infiniteness of God, with the creations, the Ne'etzalim, with all the emanations of God. It will never move. What does it mean? This revelation of the essence of what is really reality of the creator will be revealed also below Basi and the physical world. That'll be drawn from above the whole order of creation, from Ein Sof, from the infinite one, blessed be he, below really. Ad Pamilia Shalmata or Pamilia Shalmaila Shavim. The upper worlds and the lower worlds will be the same. Be the same. And that's what it says. Omer Rachamecha, says the one who has mercy on you. All of this will be drawn al Yeshashuv El Hashem, that God wants us to return to him. And then that will evoke God's mercy on us. So one of the main things of Mashiach will do, there's these different stages of Mashiach, but the Rambam Maimonides brings that one of the things that Mashiach will do is bring Mashiach. In other words, Mashiach will awaken everyone's desire for more truth. People won't think about themselves anymore. I'm going to go to heaven. I'm a sinner. I am this. I big capital I's. People will think only, what does God want? What does God want from me? Forget about me. Forget about if I go to heaven, forget to hell. That's just, how do you say, cheap thrills. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested only in truth. And Mashiach will bring people more and more and more to start thinking about what is true. So people can, of course, say, I'll tell you what's true. If I take this drug, I feel good. That's true. That's true. So yeah, you're right. You got a very good point. That's true. But there's another type of a truth that's more true. That truth, you take a drug, whether you steal money or whatever it is, right? It feels good, but it goes away. It's not really real. And if somebody comes afterwards and tells you, that drug you take, it shortens your life by 10 years each time you take, whatever, right? It comes out a report that drug makes you go crazy after 2 years. Then you don't enjoy it anymore. You stop taking it, right? You stop taking it because it was false. In other words, it never really was true. It was only true what it did to you, what the world is. But it was a certain type of truth. It did do a certain thing. People will say, okay, that's not really truth. That's not that's a trick. That's a trick. It's like a mirage. You really think it's true, but it's really not. A dream. Made me feel good, but on the other hand, it wasn't. Who is this me that it made feel good? People then will start getting interested more and more in the truth. And when they get more interested in the truth, they wonder, well, what is the source of truth? What is it? Can it really be that God is creating everything, and that God is creating everything for love, and that God cares about every little detail, and that God is above the angels? He's creating the angels. He's creating all these other religions that people believe in. This is also sort of like drugs. They're really not true. It's just sort of temporary ego trips. What's really the real truth? That's what Mashiach will bring. He'll bring an awareness to first of all, the desire. People will want to feel this feeling of the essence of God. And then God will respond and give us this essence with the arrival of Mashiach, a true revelation of what is true reality in this physical world. But it depends on our desiring and our making ourselves an empty vessel for this great mercy we should be longing for and asking that God reveal. Huh? Good. Now let's do the Devar Malchut. Let's stop the share.